Jai Gurudev, everybody. Welcome back to the online lecture on Bhakti Marga philosophy and Hindu scriptures especially. Today we're going to look into the second part of Hindu scriptures. Before we go into it, I just give a short recap, short summary from last time. So last time we started to speak about the scriptures in Hinduism, and we have firstly mentioned that we have to clarify what the position of the scripture is in Hinduism. And we have said that Hinduism is not a scripture of the book, meaning that Hindu tradition is not based solely on scripture, solely on a book, like you may find in other traditions. We have said that there's many different traditions, in the previous courses where we have told that there is a variety, a diversity in this unity. I've spoken about this tree which has roots and the trunk which everything holds together, which all Hindus follow, and then there's different branches, different traditions. Depending to which tradition you follow, you will have certain scriptures what you pick and which you follow, which you read, which you meditate on, and so on. So depending on which tradition you follow, the scriptures, you will choose certain scriptures. And we have said that besides the scriptures, the authority also lies in the masters, in the realized masters, the teachers, in the tradition, in the established traditions, and also in your personal experience. All of these parts have also now an authority, just to say that scripture is not necessarily always the highest authority. There's also other authorities in the Hindu faith system. Then we have looked at a chart which gives us a rough overview. So we have said there's two kinds of scriptures. On one side we have revealed scriptures, the so-called shrutis, which means that which has been heard, which has been revealed. And under those shrutis we have the vedas. The vedas are revealed scriptures. We have spoken about the four vedas, which again are subdivided in various categories. Amongst those we have looked into two categories. On one side, the action-based category, which speaks about the rituals, the so-called karma kanda, this action-based section, and on the other side, the philosophical part, the so-called jnana kanda. So we have this revealed scriptures on one side, and then on the other side, we have now the smritis. Smritis are means that what has been heard or that which has been remembered, and amongst those there's many scriptures, and we have started with the itihasas last time. Itihasas means so much as that what has happened, that which has happened. So it's historical events. They have happened in the course of time, and amongst those we have mentioned two. The Ramayana, which is the story of the Lord Rama, divine incarnation, which lived about 7,000 years back while he was in exile on his quest to liberate his beloved wife Sita from the clutches of a demon king, Ravana. That in short is what we talked. We looked into different characters of this scripture, on the esoteric meaning, what it represents in essence, and so on, the different versions which exist. All of this we looked in the last section. And as the second scripture, we have looked into the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata, we have said, is one of the biggest epos existing. It consists of 100,000 verses, and again, what is the gist, what is the essence of the story? It is the fight between two families, between the Kauravas, which are the so-called bad guys, and the Pandavas, the good guys. They are cousins, and they are fighting over a kingdom. It's a long story with many events and of course many teachings inside. we have concluded that the Mahabharata, this scripture, culminates in a final battle, the Kurukshetra battle, in which now the most important scripture, or one of the most important scriptures, has been revealed, namely the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita, we have spoken last time also about it, that is part of the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is long epos, in which of course now we have another divine incarnation which is present, which is prominent, that is Krishna. He has lived about 5,000 years ago, and it culminates in this fight between the two families, where now the hero Arjuna gets weak and seeks instruction from God or from Krishna or from his master, and now Krishna is giving Arjuna, or which also again they have all esoteric meanings or significances. We all have looked at this in the first part of Hindu scriptures, where now Krishna gives instructions to Arjuna on how to live, how to act in the world, how to meditate, how to realize yourself, how to surrender and receive the grace of God and realize the absolute, and much, much more. All of this has been given in the Bhagavad Gita, which is a part of the Mahabharata, but as it is a spoken scripture, something which God has spoken directly, it is also considered to be part of the Vedas, or part of the Shrutis, and it includes all the knowledge which is in the Vedas. Yeah, so this is the things what we have spoken last time. This Bhagavad Gita consisting of 700 verses. I've shown you one version of it, like this is a small version which even contains a commentary from my master Paramahamsa Vishwananda. Imagine you just have the verses, 700 verses, something you can read very quickly, but you can meditate lifelongs on it. Yeah. So today we carry now on the Hindu scriptures. We will look further into that section of the Smritis and see what else we have to discover. Okay? Hindu scriptures. So here again we have this overview which I have just told you. So just for your understanding, for your visual understanding, again you have on one side the Shrutis, that which is heard, that which has been revealed, downloaded scriptures, it's given by God. Amongst those we have the Vedas. The Vedas, we have 4 Veda, the Rig, Sama, Yajur, Atharva Veda. They are again subdivided into 2 parts, the Karma Kanda, the ritualistic or practical, practice-based part, and the Jnana Kanda, the philosophical part. Okay? And then we have on the other side, on the overall categories, the Smritis. The Smritis is that which is being remembered or which has been told. Amongst those scriptures, we have last time, like we just said, spoken about the Ramayana, the Itihasas, histories, the Ramayana, and the Mahabharata, from which the Bhagavad Gita is a part. Okay? So keep this chart in your mind. It's easier to understand and to remember all this jungle of scriptures what we have in the Hindu tradition. So today we're going to look into the Puranas, into the Agamas, into the Sutras, and I might say a few words on the Dharma Shastras, the last point. Yeah, so that we have seen all of those which are here in this chart. Ready? Let's go. So, the Puranas. So, the word Purana itself means ancient, something which is ancient. And as you might remember, the last time we have already said that the Vedas, yeah, these revealed scriptures, they are utmost authoritative because, of course, they are revealed scriptures given by God, given from guru to disciple, given down. but they contain such high philosophical ideas, Atman, Brahman, Prakriti, how they interact and so on, that very few people, relatively very few people, are able to wrap their mind around this concept. It's very abstract, it's very deep philosophy and so on. And the common people are not interested in those kind of ideas. And therefore, in the Hindu tradition, there is a vast richness of stories, yeah, of just tales which have been told, like the histories, like the Puranas, in which all this knowledge from the Vedas is being packed into a story which is just more sweet, more digestible. It's everybody wants to listen to a story, yeah, and therefore there's lots and lots of stories. The Puranas are very known for that. Which Puranas do we have? We have 18 main Puranas. So there's 18 main Puranas. And now just I have to rewind a moment and go back to one of our previous lectures where we have spoken about the diversity and the unity. Yeah, if you remember, we have spoken there's one God, one reality, one truth, but he reveals himself in many names. He has many aspects, many faces, and so on. We have also said that Hinduism is different from the traditions which we might know in this in our Western culture, like Christianity and so on, because there's not just one scripture, one founder and one philosophy, but there's many. So when we take this manifold, this diversity, there is the idea of the Trinity, yeah, not the Trinity like in Christianity, but the Trinity of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. You might have heard of it. So what are they? They're all aspects of the one supreme, and they're all exposing different activities. So Brahma, not Brahman, not the Brahman, what we have spoken before, the ultimate. No, Brahma, the creator God. So like the word already says, he is in charge of creation. So he comes forward and he gets the duty to create the whole universe with all its inhabitants and so on and so on. The absolute Lord in the form of Vishnu is now in charge of maintaining the balance of this universe. And Shiva is in charge of dissolving this universe once it has fulfilled its purpose, once the cycle is over again. Yeah, that's all what we have spoken in also those lectures when we have spoken about the concept of time, everything cyclical and so on. You can all watch them in the previous lectures. So Brahma creates, Vishnu maintains, Shiva dissolves. For each of those main deities, there is different Puranas. Yeah, so we have 18 main Puranas. 6 belong to Brahma, 6 to Shiva, 6 to Vishnu. Okay, so the Puranas contain mainly devotional stories, philosophy, cosmology, history and family, ancestry of kings, yeah, how the descendant of this, how everything came to happen, the cosmology, what was the origin, from where did everything start. And there it's going to be like that. Like if you take the Shiva Purana, it will tell the story of the beginning of the universe, that the original being Shiva, from that everything sprung forth. And so also if you take of course the Vishnu Purana, they will tell the same tale or a similar tale with Narayana or Vishnu as the highest, from which everything springs forth. Yeah, so as I am in Bhakti Marga, following a Vaishnava tradition, a tradition which is in the following Vishnu, Narayana and all the manifestations, we will focus mainly on the Vishnu Puranas. But just that you get a general overview, there's many different Puranas which will tell similar stories. That's why it's sometimes so complex, because you might hear the same story but with little differences, and then it's like, so which now is the right story? It depends. Yeah. So we have 6 Vaishnava Puranas, 6 Puranas which are exclusively for the Vaishnavas, in which Vishnu and Krishna is considered the supreme. Amongst those, the Bhagavat Purana, or also the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, the same thing, is the most important one. Also, the Vishnu Purana is very authoritative in the Vaishnava tradition, and the others also, but mainly the Srimad Bhagavatam. I would say the Srimad Bhagavatam is known in general as one of the main Puranas itself. Yeah? Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavat Purana. So let's have a short look into the Bhagavat Purana just to get an idea of it. The Bhagavat Purana was revealed by Veda Vyasa. Now you know who is Veda Vyasa. Yeah, we have spoken of him already a few times before. He is the one who compiled the Vedas and who wrote the Mahabharata. Yeah, so you remember the Vedas, they were just passed on in an oral way, and Veda Vyasa at the time of Krishna's departure, when this dark age entered, this Kali Yuga entered into the world, he was now compiling this knowledge for the welfare of the world. Yeah, by doing that, he showed clearly the supremacy of Bhakti, of love and devotion towards the Supreme Lord, towards the Supreme God Narayana. Well, how did he show that? So this is actually one of the key stories in the Srimad Bhagavatam. You see, you have to understand the Puranas in difference to the Itihasas, to these historical events which we spoke the last time, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, which is a story. Yeah, it starts at some point and then it carries on, and it has different scenes, different etaps, beginning and an end. The Puranas, they are different. So there's many devotional stories, many stories, and also many different narrators. Yeah, you don't have just one person who narrates the story. You have many different narrators, and this one tells that this one told me, and that one told me, and so on and so on. So you have to get a little bit into it to really get like, who is that now? Where did this come from? And so on and so on. So what happened? In the beginning, there's this story where Veda Vyasa, as he was compiling the Vedas, writing the Mahabharata, telling about all these different paths, the Karma Yoga path, about the Jnana Yoga, about moksha, and so on and so on. He did all of this just for the welfare of the world, because he wanted to do a service to the world. But even after having done all this service, he still felt unsatisfied. He still felt something is missing. And while he was trying to figure out what is missing, Narada Muni, the celestial sage, came to him. Narada Muni, he is very much known. He travels all the worlds, all the spiritual realities, chanting all the time the glory of God. He's always on his veena and chanting Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. So he came along to visit Veda Vyasa, and he told him, do not despair. I do know where your crisis comes from, where this dissatisfaction comes from. And Veda Vyasa was, what is it? And he said, you see, you have spoken about many philosophical concepts. You have explained how karma yoga functions, how one should act in the world without attachment, how one should contemplate on the self and renounce the sense objects, and so on and so on. You have spoken about dharma, you have spoken about so many things, but you have missed one jewel, the most important you have missed. You have missed to speak about the glory of the Supreme Lord Narayana. So his advice was, write down the glories of the Absolute, write down the glory of Narayana and his Leelas, his divine place. Yeah, Leela are this divine place. His interactions with his devotees, with his beloved ones. Write down all these glories, all these relationships, all of those things which kindle this love and devotion inside of every human being. Speak about bhakti, speak about love and devotion, because that's the ultimate, and you will see, you will find satisfaction. And following this advice, Vyasa now sat down and started to write the Bhagavat Purana, or the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in fact, when he concluded, he was absolutely satisfied. It is one of the greatest gifts he has left to the world. Even though he has written the Vedas and all of those things, Bhakti is this. It's almost like you could say the Vedas is almost like, if you take a human body, it's like the skeleton. Yeah, it's like the basis, the foundation. If you take now the Bhagavad-Gita, the Bhagavad-Gita now starts to put on muscles and skin. Yeah, so now the human being becomes like not just this pure skeleton, but now it gets real deformed with muscles and the skin. If you take the Bhagavatam, that is now the ornaments, the beautifying factor of this body. Yeah, if you want to take that picture, it is really like the cherry on the cake. So this is one of the main reasons when the Srimad Bhagavatam was given. Then the second point speaks about Parikshit. Parikshit, which was the grandson of Arjuna. So I hope you all still active. Remember Arjuna? Arjuna is this hero, one of the good guys in the Mahabharata, in this previous story what we told when this big fight was happening between the good guys and bad guys. Yeah, Arjuna was this hero, and his charioteer was Krishna, God. So after this war, when Krishna left this world, when all the Pandavas left the world, Arjuna and his brothers, all of them died, he had a grandson, and the grandson's name is Bariksit. So of course, as they have all left the world, he was the ruler of this kingdom which was left for him. And he was a good king, a righteous king, but at some point he was cursed to die of a snake bite in 7 days. That's actually another main story of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me tell you the basis of it. So basically, Parikshit, this great king, one day he ride out from his kingdom on his horse. And while he is riding, he sees a cow which is very ill-treated, suffering, in misery. And he sees a bull next to the cow, standing barely just on one leg. And he is wondering what happened there. And while he looks around, he sees next to them a dark man in broken clothes, with a sword in his hand, ill-treating this cow and ready to cut off the last leg of this bull. When the king sees that, he gets furious and rage, jumps off his horse, and is about to attack this dark man, to kill him. Because he is there to protect the weak. He is there. He is a righteous king. So why he attacks this man the man sees the king approaching with his sword taken out already. And this man very cleverly surrenders to the king, puts himself down and says, I surrender, I seek refuge at your feet, O king. Because he knows that Parikshit is a righteous king. And if you take shelter at his feet, if you ask pardon, if you beg pardon, a righteous king will always have to give you shelter and to forgive you. And so King Parikshit did not kill this man. Well, who is this man? This man is nobody else than this dark age, Kali Yuga, which we have spoken so many times before. You remember when we have spoken about the history of the Hindu tradition, we have started by telling the history from the moment when Krishna has left the world and Kali Yuga, this dark age, has entered. When we have spoken about the time in the Hindu tradition, the different yugas from the golden age, the Satya Yuga, down to the dark age, the Kali Yuga. So 5,000 years ago, when Krishna has left, this dark age has entered slowly, slowly into the world. And now this dark age is personified in a dark person, very ugly and aggressive person. And he's attacking the cow. What does the cow represent? Who is the cow? The cow is Bhumi Devi, Mother Earth. Mother Earth is represented in a cow. That's why in the Vedas it said, the way we treat the cow, according to that we can see how we treat the earth. And if we take that, if we take this analogy, we can actually see in the world that it's true. Yeah? How we treat the cow, just go to McDonald's, ask McDonald's, that's how we treat our world. Yeah? No, never mind, that's a different story. But, so the cow was ill-treated and was suffering by from this Kali Yuga. And the bull represents nobody else than Dharma. Dharma, the righteous way of living. And as I said, he had only one leg left. Because every time a lower age was starting, in the Satya Yuga he has 4 legs. In the Silver Age, in the Treta Yuga, he only has 3 legs. 1 leg is lost. In the Dwapara Yuga, in the Bronze Age, another leg is left. Yeah? And in the Kali Yuga, it's about the last leg to be cut off. So these legs represent qualities. Righteous qualities like purity, austerity, sacrifice. All these qualities which a society, which a human being should have, they have been cut off. And now there's only 1 leg left. That is the leg of truthfulness. Righteousness, truthfulness, sincerity. That leg is left. Satyam. And Kali Yuga. This demonic person is about to cut off even that last leg. That would mean that Kali Yuga, this dark age where materialism is fully manifested, where spiritual realization is absolutely blinded by this gross world, that is where Kali Yuga has really taken grip. The last leg where we stand on in our society is sincerity, truthfulness, right? Very beautiful. If we skip that quality, we are really much engrossed in this dark age. So never mind. This dark age was now seeking refuge by the king. But the king was ready to banish, was banishing this Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga was begging for mercy. It was like saying, you are the sovereign ruler of all the world. Where should I be? I'm also subject of yours. Give me some places to be, some places to reside. So the king was thinking about, and he decided, okay, I will give you 4 places where you can reside. And he said, the first place where you can reside is where people are constantly numbing their senses, like drinking and taking drugs or bars, whatever, all those places where people are reducing their mind, numbing and lowering their mind's capacity, the intellectual capacity through different substances and so on and so on. This is a place where you can reside. Further, he said, places where people are running after absolute sense pleasures, where they are just there to live out their sensual enjoyments, like the brothel, yeah, like with prostitutes and so on. People who go to those places, there you can reside, O Kali Yuga. Further, places where there's a lot of violence and negativity, like slaughterhouses, violence and brutality, in those places you may reside, O Kali Yuga. And the 4th place where you can stay, places where gambling happens. Yeah, where people gamble. Las Vegas, let's go Kali Yuga, let's go to Las Vegas. Yeah. So where people are getting numb, where people numb themselves, where there's a lot of violence, slaughterhouses, where there is sense pleasures like brothels and so on, and where there is gambling happening. This is the places where Kali Yuga is very much present. So Kali Yuga was kind of satisfied, but said, "O king, and people who go to those places, they are already kind of fallen. They are already mine. They are already in this dark illusion. But I have some quality of, I have some qualities which I want to live out, like to trick people, to the word doesn't come, the right word, but you get what I mean. Like I want another place where I can live out my just doesn't come the word. Never mind. So the king was thinking, and he said, like, okay, in that case, you may also reside in gold. Okay. That was it. So Kali Yuga was allowed to leave and reside in those places. The king carried on with his writing. I'm cutting the story short because we could go on and on. And now he reached the hermitage of a sage. And this sage was sitting there in deep meditation, in deep samadhi, and he was absolutely oblivious of everything that happens around him. So when the king was approaching, he didn't notice that the king was approaching, so he didn't give him a welcome. Now the king was wearing a crown made out of gold. And through that, as Kali Yuga has now got grip of gold, Kali Yuga was influencing the mind of this righteous king Parikshit, and the king got upset that this Rishi was not standing up and giving him the due respect. So he took a dead snake and he threw it around his neck, and he left. Later on, the son of the sage came from the bath, and he saw his father with his dead snake, and with his divine vision he saw what happened, and he got so furious that he cursed the king, and he said, "Because of this deed, you shall die from a snake bite within 7 days." So, having said that, now the king heard about this curse, that he has 7 days to live, and now he left the whole kingdom and decided, I have 7 days left, let me go and seek liberation with the time I have left. So he went to the forests and he met the great sage Sukha Goswami, the son of Veda Vyasa, and he told him all what happened to him, and Sukha Goswami told him, you don't worry, I will tell you the glory of God, which I have heard from my father. I will tell you this relationship between God and his beloved devotees, and through that your mind will be completely established in the Lord. Your heart will blossom up in this love and devotion, and when the time to depart comes, you will definitely reach the highest realization, the highest abode possible. So we see, just by listening to the Bhagavatam, to the Srimad Bhagavatam, to the stories of the Lord, that can give you absolute liberation. Shravana Bhakti, hearing the glories of the Lord, that is one of the spiritual practices which you can do. And even the king was given this instruction by the great Sukha Goswami. So Srimad Bhagavatam is, there are 12 books. They are called cantos, the 12 cantos, and the Leelas of Narayana and his avatars. Yeah, Narayana, the supreme Lord, the supreme reality, and his divine incarnation avatars are described. Krishna being one of those avatars, one of those divine incarnation. His story starts in the 10th canto. Therefore, it's very interesting, very loved, because it's a very beautiful and deep, touching story, uplifting story. Yeah, because they're not just stories, they transform one. Yeah, so this is just to get the idea of the Bhagavad Purana, one of the main Puranas. So so far we have said there's 18 Puranas. Different traditions have their own Puranas. 6 Puranas are for the Vaishnavas. Amongst those, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the most important. It was written by Veda Vyasa because he still, after all giving all this, he still felt not satisfied. And now, by the instruction of Narada Muni, he knew Bhakti is the highest. The love for God, devotion for God is the highest. Therefore, let me tell that through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we see King Parikshit, who is about to die and seeks also the highest realization and gets it by just listening to this amazing, beautiful stories of the Lord. Yeah. Further, there is a whole bunch of key stories. Here's just a few mentioned. There are also in a translation or in a commentary which Paramahamsa Vishwananda, my guru, did on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have Vyasa's depression, which I told you already. In short, Parikshit's curse, I also told you. Then Daksha's Yagya, Dhruva, Jadabharata, Ajamila, King Ambarisha, Gajendra Moksha, and of course the Dashavatar, the 10 main incarnations of the Lord are being told in the story, and Krishna, as I said, in the 10th book. There's no time to go now through the stories. Maybe there will be other videos to go through the stories at other times, but this just that you get an idea. Okay? Then further on we have the Guru-Gita. So the Guru-Gita is now, as we said, there's different Puranas, yeah? The Guru-Gita is a part, you see in the second point, a part from the Skanda Purana. Who's Skanda? Skanda is Muruga. He is the son of Shiva. So the Guru-Gita doesn't come from any Vaishnava Purana, but it comes from a Shiva Purana, from the Skanda Purana, to be more clear. What does that show us? Because in Bhakti Marga we also read the Guru-Gita and cherish the Guru-Gita, it shows us that in Hinduism there is no limitation that you can only take this scripture, only look at this. No, there is this vast knowledge which is given to us, and you can take whatever fits you, whatever you need, whatever is helping you. And of course, it is very, very helpful if you have a spiritual master, a guide, which now interprets those scriptures for your understanding. Like the Guru-Gita, being coming from the Skanda Purana, a Shiva tradition, through the interpretation of Paramahamsa Vishwananda, yes, we have like the Guru-Gita in Bhakti Marga, like with the commentary of Paramahamsa Vishwananda, it is full with this idea of love and devotion. And this just shows us again that you can take whatever you want, you can leave what doesn't fit you, because what are the scriptures made for? What is knowledge made for? Paramahamsa Vishwananda, he has always told us, knowledge is only useful if it kindles this love for God within yourself. If it makes you more strong on your spiritual path, if it gives you more clarity, if it increases your intellect, your understanding of the world, of yourself, of God, of your relationship with God, especially if it increases this love inside of you. That is what the purpose of scriptures is. That is what the purpose of knowledge is. Honestly, he made it so clear that he said, if scriptures do not do that, then they are useless. Yeah? Learning just for learning's sake is absolutely useless. It's even counterproductive, because you might learn a lot and you might think yourself very intelligent, very knowledgeable. What does that do with you now? If it's just book knowledge, no divine revelation and understanding, what does it do with you? It creates pride. Actually, a special form of pride, a very dangerous form of pride, spiritual pride. Yeah, when you think you know so much and you go around lecturing everybody, that is very, very dangerous. Paramahamsa Vishwananda always says, knowledge and scriptures are there to enhance your spiritual life, to make you more grounded, to make you more clear, more strong on your spiritual path, and especially to increase this love for God. Yeah? So that is why we can take whatever scripture we need to get to this goal. So what is the Guru-Gita now? Guru, as we said already in the last one of the last lectures when we spoke about the Guru concept, Guru is the one who guides one from darkness into light, or from ignorance into knowledge or wisdom. And the Gita is again a song. So it's the song of the Guru. Who gives it to whom? It is Shiva, Lord Shiva, which is asked by Parvati, his wife, what is the highest principle? What is the most important thing? Yeah, so she makes an open statement, an open question, and Shiva now just starts to tell her the Guru-Gita by telling her the most important thing is the spiritual master. Really, really beautiful, because you see Parvati, the divine mother, Shakti, she is Prakriti, she represents all creation, she represents all of us. She's asking on our behalf, what is the highest mystery, what is the most important principle? And now Shiva, yeah, the Adi Yogi, the great king of yogis, he now gives the Guru-Gita. He tells us what is the glory of the Guru, and in that he establishes that nothing is higher than the Guru. There is nothing higher than the Guru. The Guru is not just the path, he is also the goal. And that only total surrender to a real master, to an enlightened being, to a Satguru, true Satguru, can free you. The grace of the master can free you and will free you. Really beautiful. For those who are, for example, not familiar with the Hindu tradition at all, and you are maybe in the Christian tradition, look at it, how beautifully those things are actually combined. In the Christian tradition, in Judaism, there was no form of God. You wouldn't even be allowed to express the name of God. Now suddenly there comes a man along and he says what? Jesus of Nazareth. What does he say? He says, I and the Father are one. Whoever follows me comes to the Father. Whoever sees me sees the Father. Only through me you can reach the Father. Isn't that amazing? It's exactly what the Guru-Gita speaks of. Of course, I know indoctrinated Christians, they will say, yeah, Christ says only through me, only through Jesus Christ, you can reach to the highest realization. But that is not what is meant, because this idea has existed thousands of years beforehand. That beings who are in this Krishna consciousness, who are in this Christ consciousness, who are in this higher conscious state, yeah, those people, they are one with the ultimate, and through their guidance, yeah, it's almost God is coming down in the form of the master. His love manifests to take our hand and to say, come on, I'm gonna show you where you belong. The spiritual master is the greatest gift what exists. He is a manifestation of God's love, of God's guidance. Yeah, that is very beautifully described in the Guru-Gita. I recommend you to read it, especially with the commentary of Paramahamsa Vishwananda. Really, really beautiful. And again, it's a little bit shortened. The main verses are being taken. Yeah. Besides that, we have now other scriptures like the Agamas. Yeah, the Agamas are now scriptures which contain philosophy, describe rituals. They contain all temple worship, festivals, prayers, etc. So there's a lot of practical things in the Agamas for any tradition to follow. Again, there's different Agamas. The Saivites, the Shiva followers, have their own Agamas. The Shaktas have their own Agamas. The Vaishnavas have their own Agamas. There's plenty of Agamas, plenty of those scriptures which describe different traditions, different festivals, different prayers, different approach. Agama is often very much put in equation with Tantra. Yeah, Tantra, we have also spoken in one of our lectures before. This divinization of the material world through mudras, through yantras, through mantras. Yeah, if you remember. So there's a lot of this practical approach, referring, of course, also to the Vedas, taking these parts of the Vedas and just putting it in practical approaches, and also tantric approaches and so on. Yeah, the most important Agama in the Vaishnava tradition, especially in the Sri Vaishnava tradition, is the Pancharatra. The Pancharatra Agama is the most, or one of the most important of the Vaishnavas, especially from the Sri Vaishnava, which is the tradition we are following, which we will of course explain at a later point on different sessions. Yeah, I just want you to get this idea. So Agamas, practically philosophy, description of rituals, temple worship, festivals, prayers, and so on and so on. Okay? Further, we have sutras. Sutras now might be a little bit more, people might be more familiar with the sutras. Sutras, what are sutras? They are short statements, short aphorisms of truth, philosophy, which contain philosophy and truth. I sometimes see them a little bit like zip data, you know, on the computer. It's like when somebody sends you a zip. It's like one file and you press on it and boom, there comes like a whole bunch of knowledge out of this one folder. And it seems to me the sutras are a little bit like that. It contains so much information in just a few words, in a few sentences, or in one sentence, in a few words. There's so much knowledge, so much truth, that of course they are often in need of interpretation, of commentaries from, therefore also great sages have commented often on the sutras. Some of the main famous sutras are the Brahma Sutras. They are talking about the Upanishad. The Upanishad, if you remember, are these parts from the Vedas, yeah, the philosophical part, the end part, the Jnana Kanda. So in the Upanishads, these philosophical ideas are contained, and the Brahma Sutras take now this philosophical concepts and boom, compress them into these short statements. Yeah, so the Upanishads are contained in the Brahma Sutras, and of course many acharyas, many great teachers and spiritual leaders have then given their commentary unpacking these statements. And the other one are the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which you might have heard also, especially if you are into yoga, if you have learned yoga and so on. Most of you learn about Patanjali because he has given most of the knowledge of yoga through his Yoga Sutras. They describe the nature and the purpose of yoga practice. Yeah, what is yoga practice in general? Again, in short statements. So the sutras. Well, and there we are already kind of finished for today. Like I said, I might say a few words on the Dharma Shastras, which are here the last one. As you can see now, we have spoken today about the Puranas, about the Agamas, about the Sutras, and now the Dharma Shastras. Let me just give you a few ideas. Of course there's more scriptures. I don't think that this is the only ones. These are just those which are often seen and mentioned. Dharma Shastras speak about the law in the world. So they are given mostly by the Manu. Manu is like the first man, which was created, which then established certain laws, and so on and so on. Often the things which are, or some parts which are in those Dharma Shastras are outdated. Yeah, we're in the 21st century, and we don't need to get stuck about things which have been told thousands of years back, or like especially social regulations which have nothing to do with the modern world. And all of that is absolutely fine. So that is important to know, because sometimes people who try to speak ill about Hinduism take statements which you find in scriptures like the Dharma Shastras to kind of put it down and say how outdated it is. Well, yes, those things are outdated, and Hindus are aware of it, and therefore there's no need to follow certain things. Still, they contain certain knowledge about certain parts of life. Yeah. This is the second part of Hindu scriptures so far. If you want, I give you a quick recap. So we have firstly summarized the first session, Hindu scriptures first part, where we spoke about the Shrutis, firstly the position of the scriptures, the Shrutis, the Smritis, the Vedas and the Itihasas. And today we have spoken about the Puranas, which are ancient scriptures, speak about cosmology. There's 18 main Puranas, 6 belonging to the Vaishnavas. Amongst those, the most important is the Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Bhagavat Purana. In that the glory of God is told, the supremacy of Bhakti, of devotion towards the highest Lord Narayana, is being expressed. It is a scripture which can give final liberation. Then we have seen shortly which other key stories are in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we have looked at the Guru-Gita, which is a very, very important scripture in relation to Guru Bhakti. So it's probably the scripture which expands mostly on Guru Bhakti. It is from another Purana, from the Skanda Purana, which is a Shiva Purana, and we have seen that there's no problem in taking those scriptures, especially when there's interpretation of commentary from your master there. It speaks about the Guru being the highest, not just the path, he is the path and the goal, and through his grace you attain the final realization. That is what it contains. Then we have spoken about the Agamas, which speak about rituals, philosophy, festivals, prayers, practical stuff. Again, every tradition has their own Agamas. The main Vaishnava Agamas, the Pancharatra, if you're interested to remember it, or maybe even to dive into it, to learn about it. And yeah, the last one was now was the Sutras. The Sutras they are aphorisms, short statements which contain a lot of truth. There we have the Brahma Sutras and the Yoga Sutras as those which are the most famous. There's others, of course. And finally the Dharma Shastras, which contain law-giving points for the world and for society. Okay, so this was the lecture today. Again, I hope you have learned a little bit something, or you got inspired to learn a little bit more, because I just want to reaffirm knowledge is important. It is really important. Those scriptures, they are really, really important, because they help us to avoid to make unnecessary mistakes, and especially through the guidance of a master, of a spiritual guide, it's even better. But of course they are always just there to help us be more grounded, be more firm in our path, and develop this love for God. That is the main point of Hindu scriptures. Please dive into it, take some, because they are universal scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita, the Guru-Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. They are really made for everybody, not just for those who call themselves Hindus, because they are rich in life lessons and life stories which affect every human being. Yeah. Next Saturday, we probably gonna speak about Vedanta. Vedanta is a philosophy coming from these Vedas, and it is important that we look at how Vedanta functions in general, how it is built up, so that later on when we go into the philosophy of our tradition of Bhakti Marga, we have a basic understanding. So we will probably look into general Vedanta aspects and principles in the next session on next Saturday. In that sense, I thank you for your attention. I wish you a nice evening. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. If you like it, give it a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you get informed when new videos are being put. Of course, feel free to share. It's a pleasure to share with all of you this knowledge so that we can all grow spiritually and in the love for God. In that sense, again, nice evening, and I see you next Saturday. Jai Gurudev.